Hey everyone, it's Matt here and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. I just want to let you guys know now this video is going to be all over the place, so disclaimer for that. I'm trying my best to organize it, but there's just a lot that I want to talk about and show you. The forums are kind of a crazy place right now. The EA forums, answers.ea, and all of this going on right now with the issues with the EA Play app and Origin. It goes a lot deeper than you think. You know, I know that yesterday now, I would say, was a very rough day for the release of The Sims 4 Growing Together. I know not every simmer had issues. I think right at 1 o'clock when the pack was coming out, it was definitely a little bit rocky. You know, everyone was jumping onto the program at the same time. There was likely some server overload happening and players couldn't log in or see their packs or download. But for the most part, things cleared up for most simmers, but that was not the case for all simmers. And I also want to say that that is not the case for all players. Those who are playing other EA titles, not just today, but for the past couple of months with the EA app. So the transition from Origin to the EA app actually began several months ago. And a lot of these issues that simmers were experiencing today, some of these other users have actually been experiencing for weeks or for months. There is a thread on Answers HQ titled, "Why am I getting forced to install EA app?" And there are so many posts from this that I want to bring up. Posts from players, EA customers, and there were even some responses from EA moderators on the forums that were honestly kind of concerning, and I'll get into that more as we advance through the thread. But this starts all the way back in December when players were first starting to be transitioned, or I guess I should say forced, onto the EA app with a pop-up coming up on the Origin homepage, which by now probably all of you have seen, since to play Growing Together now you really do have to be on the EA app. You can't be on Origin anymore, at least for most players. I believe that there are still some that are using Origin, but most players are probably over on the EA app now. There was a fix or a workaround to keep the Origin client, which I will get into more later, that unfortunately you can't do anymore. But this user here expresses in this first post that they're being pushed and forced onto the EA app, and also mentioned that the EA app does not allow you to play with your friends, so you can't invite your friends to a game apparently. Some of the issues that a lot of simmers were experiencing today, these users are posting about back in December. Half of my add-ons are showing I don't own them, one user writes. Now EA is forcing an app that does not work. And honestly, just reading this here and then seeing how things were today, it doesn't seem like anything has changed, honestly. From what I experienced today with Growing Together coming out at 1 p.m. and I wasn't actually able to get the game downloaded and get myself in it and playing until later at night. I was just having so many issues all day. I know a lot of simmers were able to get things figured out quickly, but that doesn't stand true for all players, and I was definitely one of those unlucky ones. And I really wanted to film a bunch of videos for it today, and it was just not possible. First, having the issue of not being able to log in, and then when logging in, packs and DLCs, games and all of that not showing up. And then once I got past that step and saw my library, then getting the actual pack to download was another process. It was just basically an infinite loading bar saying preparing, but the game never worked. Tried restarting my computer, still didn't work. And finally later that night, I was able to download The Sims 4 Growing Together. What I want to know is, why is this app being forced on players when it doesn't even feel beta ready? Honestly, in my opinion, this feels alpha. And I can understand if they have this coming out and, you know, it has all of these issues, but we still have Origin as an option to use, something that is for the most part stable. But now we don't even have Origin, most of us don't even have Origin as an option, and are being forced onto an app that doesn't even work properly and hasn't worked properly for months. So there have been plenty of posts on this this thread over the last couple of months. But at post number 41, EA Darko, community manager, has now responded to this thread. Hey y'all, if seeing issues with games not working and the like, then this generally points to a system issue. What system troubleshooting have you all tried? This post really provoked the side eye from me because this is clearly not a user issue. This is an issue from the EA client itself. So many different users are expressing concerns, the same issues with the same app. So why would it be a system issue? And now looking back at this today on March 17th with the amount of simmers that had trouble downloading and playing the pack, and some, yes, a whole day later, still unable to get their games to download, this is suddenly our fault? I'm sorry, I do not like this response at all. So then get this. 3 weeks later, a user posts a link to how you can bypass that little Origin pop-up so you can keep using Origin, right? And this is awesome. I gotta tell ya, it worked. And keyword here, worked, past tense, because it no longer works. And I'm gonna get into that in a second. But there was a way that you could edit the local.xml file and actually add a key in there so that you can disable the migration pop-up. Yeah, it worked and you could continue using Origin, but that's no longer the case. They have actually patched that now, I guess after seeing this post and that thread here, so that you can no longer do that. So you are 100% being forced now, even after this. And I even tried this myself because I really wanted to hang on to Origin for dear life. Like, it was a life raft in the middle of the ocean and I was drowning. I followed the instructions here. I found my Origin folder. I opened up local.xml. I added that tagline in, opened Origin, and look what happened. The migration pop-up did actually in fact pop up for me, and I was forced to move over to the EA Play app. So I force closed Origin, decided to open up that folder where I added that tagline, and it was gone. So they basically patched Origin so that when you add the tagline to disable the migration pop-up, it automatically deletes from the file when you launch Origin. They really went out of their way to even stop people that are trying to bypass this. And it's not like people are trying to bypass it because they're stingy. They're trying to bypass it because they're spending all of their hard-earned money on these games and they want their program to function properly. They want a stable program, which for the most part, again, Origin, I'm not gonna say is, but was, now at this point. So they're being forced from a stable program to one that truly feels alpha, which should not be being forced on players, at least not yet in its current state. And of course, many players express this on the forums. One user writes, "Me too. EA has forced an unfinished beta app version on all of us, and honestly, that's being generous." So this thread has gone on a while and there weren't really any EA community manager responses, but one user begins to bring up the lack of transparency. All your interactions lately have been to lock posts or promote the EA app. The app does not work. We can't play the games we purchased. There are talks about starting a class action suit against EA for that garbage launcher. So please, instead of just in quotes moderating the content, actually forward the feedback to higher management, which I totally vouch for. This is very constructive feedback that I'm reading here. These are actual players, paying customers that are having a terrible experience with an app they did not choose to download. They are being forced on. This user also writes, "The new app is a failure. It is destroying EA's already damaged brand," which I agree with 100%. And so far, this is a very, very constructive comment. We would like to have EA representatives telling us what the company is doing so that we can play the games we purchased and are now incapable of launching. Have a nice day. This was a great response. response. Almost a perfect response. It's constructive, and it also is calling them out on their BS. But it doesn't seem like the EA community manager liked that very much, as there was a response to this from EA Darko. Just so you are aware, discussing moderation is a breach of the AHQ user rules and guidelines. If you wish to play EA games, then you will need to use the EA app. You will no longer be able to use Origin. Okay, well, if that wasn't already obvious, we knew that. We're being forced out of Origin onto this app. There have been workarounds to try and keep Origin with the XML editor, but those were unfortunately patched, so now you can't even work around that. So of course we know that we're not going to be able to use Origin. To some degree, I guess I can understand this response, especially the part about discussing moderation, but they still failed to respond to the concerns that were listed in that post. It just seems like they're avoiding the issue altogether and just hoping that it blows over. This user does respond back, "I will not discuss moderation again. Thank you," and continues with great points. "Could you please acknowledge that you understand what we are saying? We would like to play the games and use the EA app. The EA app simply does not work." 100% true. Not for everyone, but for many players. It fails without error message. It refuses to launch games. It won't work offline. I was even having issues with the offline mode earlier, and it's weird because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. It's very finicky, at least from my experience. They write, "I tried reaching support about this. I was redirected here where it seems like no one can help because we are all facing the same issues and EA won't help us or acknowledge the issue," which we just saw they failed to acknowledge the issue. They acknowledged everything but the issue exactly. Just going over hundreds of messages over here, it's easy to see the issue and the frustration of the community. And this is exactly why I'm talking about this. Players are frustrated. This isn't just a today thing. This isn't just a last week thing. This is something that has been going on for months. There were issues with EA app when this first launched months ago, and still, as players are being forced over to it, it still doesn't work properly. They could easily be listening to feedback and providing solutions like this user states here, but it doesn't seem like they're doing anything, and I can definitely see why users are frustrated. It just feels like they're shouting into a void at this point. It's also not just regular everyday customers. EA, your own game changers, your own creators and ambassadors are even having problems, and they can even get into their games to create content to promote them for you. Growing Together came out early afternoon on the 16th, and at 1 a.m. now today on the 17th, wonderful YouTube content creator Urban Sims tweeting, "I seriously dislike the EA app. Now it says I've downloaded and installed The Sims 4 Growing Together, but when I launch the game, it's not there. Anyone else having this issue and have a fix?" Still having issues. Like, this is just unacceptable. And we're not just talking Sims 4 either. Even for Sims 3, there are issues in Sims 3 Create a World. One user tweeting, "So the EA app broke Sims 3 Create a World, so the worlds I was building and hoping to release just all went to waste. So now I'm going to turn my creative focus to creating Sims 4 custom content until they can hopefully fix it. I doubt it." All sorts of mess, really. Another player from the EA Creator Network, "I hate the EA app. I've never had an issue with Sims 3 crashing, and that's all that's been happening." So ridiculous. Again, showing these to you guys because it's happening to everyone. If you're one of those players or simmers that hasn't really had any issues with the EA app, I cannot tell you how jealous I am of you right now. You are definitely one of the lucky ones. Going back to the thread, after no response from the previous post, Normand Naden posts again. "EA Darko, I am asking again, can this issue that now has 100 answers here and thousands in other threads and platforms be forwarded to higher management, and can an official statement and the steps EA intends to take to fix it be produced? If you are not in a position to do that, can you point us in the direction of a right procedure for this major issue to be considered and fixed by EA?" No response, but seems as though they're aware of things. As a banner was posted, "We're working on some tech issues with the EA app. In the meantime, you may not be able to log in, make a purchase, redeem codes, or see your newest games. We'll have the EA app up and running again soon. They have that banner there. Of course, the Sims team posts on the Sims Direct Communications earlier today that there were issues and that things are being fixed, but it seems the same issues that happened today also happened back when infants were released on Tuesday. So honestly, I feel like at this point, anytime there's a big release, there's probably going to be server issues, and seeing how many months this goes back with issues on the EA app in general, who knows when all of this will be sorted out. I truly feel like this is going to happen with every single patch update or pack release at this point, especially if they aren't doing time zone rolling releases and just release it worldwide at one time for everyone. That would truly be a recipe for disaster, as everyone is coming onto these servers at once and overloading them. This is a lot, guys, but of course, I'm gonna have links to the threads on my website. Check them out. Also, I want to advise you guys, please join the conversations and seriously express how you feel, your honest thoughts. Of course, be kind, follow rules and guidelines. There's nothing wrong with constructive feedback. The more people that are talking about this, of course, the more likely they are going to take it seriously and look into it. And I just want you guys to know about it, because obviously there's a lot of issues going on, but I feel like a lot of people don't know how far back these issues span. Like, this isn't just a growing together release thing. This has been going on for so long, and it's just getting to a point where it's just unacceptable, and we need answers. As players, as consumers, as people spending our hard-earned money on these games, we deserve a client that works and functions properly so that we can play them, and we deserve our feedback to not be ignored. Of course, share all your thoughts and feedback below. I love you guys, take care, and happy simming.